Thanks, Wei. Hello, everyone. I'm Kai. At the beginning, we'll discuss why advertising needs regulation. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. A pop-up ad. Oh, I think this pop-up is so useful for us. You see, presentation class. Wow, thanks for the algorithm. I believe everyone has been bombarded by all kinds of ads, but we have to see advertising is an integral part of the modern market economy. Here are two conflicts lead to why we need advertising regulation. One is to balance the interest of marketers promoting their products and services and to protect consumers from misleading, indecent, and distasteful messages simultaneously. Another is to encourage creativity and keep it within boundaries. When we speak of marketers and consumers, the most important thing is symmetrical information. Here we have to mention the famous economic theory, the market for lemon, discovered by economist Georgia Aklov, who won the Nobel Memory Prize in Economics. By the way, do you guys think he looks so like Bill Gates? I have to say they may be real siblings from different parents. Here is a video to explain the market for lemons and information asymmetry. Here we go.
Bill wants to buy a 5-year-old Model ABC car. We'll assume he's only interested in this exact model and age. In his city, there are 20 such cars for sale. The problem is this: they are not all alike. Some of the cars have several frequently hidden problems and can become a headache for the new owners, cars usually referred to as lemons. Other owners have been luckier or more careful when it comes to maintaining their vehicles, perhaps both, and as such, their cars are very good. Unfortunately for Bill, each seller knows how good or bad his car is because he's had it for enough time to figure this out. Bill, however, doesn't, and this is a case of information asymmetry, a type of imperfect information which leads to quote-unquote market failures, as some economists call them. We'll say a fair price for a lemon is $5,000 and the fair price for a very good car is $10,000. Bill doesn't want to pay $10,000 because he has to factor in the risk of the car turning out to be a lemon, so he will try to go as close to $5,000 as possible. Lemon sellers are happy enough with this state of affairs, whereas those who own very good cars are not, and will be tempted to leave the market and simply keep their vehicles.
To wrap up this theory, if incomplete information is the only means to judge a product or service, then bad information will eventually lead to the downfall of the market. So we needed regulation to penalize and defeat unethical marketers who are stuck in short term and to support and help ethical participants who think in the long term. Apart from this, basic theories about advertising is definitely a creative industry. Similarly to this, consumers expect advertisement to do more than just inform and persuade. They also expect advertisement to be interesting, even entertaining. Here's a very creative ad from an American telescope brand. It seems to see you use this telescope, magnifying 200 folds, you can see the whole moon. 400 folds, you can see the American national flag on the moon erected by Armstrong, and 800 folds, you can see the flag was made in China. How creative it is. So, if we simply implement a strict and rigorous regulation, this would not only hurt the domestic advertising industry, but also domestic products and services, as consumers are drawn away by the fancier advertising of international companies. However, if we let them create and innovate as they wish, it may bring some unexpected disasters. You guys know this ad? Dolce & Gabbana used this so-called creative ad to degrade Chinese culture, intentionally or unintentionally. Eventually, it lost the Chinese market. So, how to regularize the advertising became a tricky question for relevant authorities. I have to leave this question to our team member Yuhan. Welcome, Yuhan.
Thanks, Guy, and his introduction. My name is Guy Yuhan, and I'm going to share with you about 2 remedies to adjust the conflicts between merchandiser and customer. Also, maintain a vigorous market. Okay, let's move to the details. The first remedy I'm going to explain is government legislation. The main objective is to maintain market order. Actually, there is no exclusive standard legislation of advertising in Singapore. However, the current laws has covered some parts of them to build a structured foundation to regulate this industry. At the left part, we can find all the related laws can be classified into 4 layers. The first one is general legislation of advertisements. Second and the third one are legislations aimed at professions and special industry. The first one is some administrative rules, also called subsidiary legislation, that may govern advertising. Besides, we also demonstrated the current laws which are related in advertising areas on the picture to give you a brief idea. Then you are going to hear about the second remedy, self-regulation. Generally, the more developed economies typically use self-regulation as the mode of regulation, and Singapore is no exception. Self-regulation means the industry, including media owners, advertising agencies, and advertisers, regulate themselves. They can determine what ad is meet the code and what to do with that unqualified ad. Maybe you will ask, how does it work? In brief, it was decided by the dynamic character of advertising industry, which need effective regulation with lower cost and won't limit the creativity of whole industry. By the end of this part, I will talk to you about a simple comparison between government legislation and self-regulation. It's worth mentioning that the advertising industry, for the most part, however, doesn't feel the heavy hand from government, because many of self-regulated rules are codifying the practice of the industry. Besides, we will go into details of self-regulation later, but just to give you an idea that the self-regulation in Singapore was mainly depends on SCAPE, Singapore Code of Advertising Practice, which was made by ASAS, the Advertising Standards Authority of Singapore. I will pass the next part to Lin Jie to give you a detailed explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuhan. Let's take a close look at the self-regulation body in Singapore. ASAS, short for the Advertising Standards Authority of Singapore, was formed in 1976 by the Consumers Association of Singapore as an advisory council to regulate advertisements. Its membership is made up of representatives from various advertising-related industry associations. As the most successful instance of industry self-regulation, ASAS regulates advertising through the Singapore Code of Advertising Practice. Its decisions are well respected by the media industry. ASAS is not set up as a clearinghouse to approve all advertising before publication. Rather, the responsibility of ensuring truthful advertising lies with both advertisers and consumers. This works in their interest because it ensures that through fair play, there is a balance of trust and responsibility between them. ASAS Council comprises representatives from advertisers, advertising agencies, government agencies, media owners, and other supporting organizations. It is worth mentioning that Professor An is the chairman from 2018. Next, we will know what do ASAS do to ensure truthful and ethical advertising, would advise and guide advertisers, advertising agencies, and the media owners on the acceptability of their own advertisements, then handle consumer complaints about questionable advertising practice in all media. Next, advice on any B2B advertisement feedback, provided that it is brought to the attention of the ASAS in accordance with the procedure of lodging a complaint. If receiving a complaint and find it has breached SCAP, ASAS can issue sanctions by firstly informing the advertiser to amend or remove the ad in question. Secondly, withholding advertising space or time from advertisers, and withdrawal of the trading privilege from advertising agencies. Both these sanctions are applied by the media owners. Thirdly, exercising the option of publishing details of the investigation outcome, by which the adverse publicity would have an impact on recalcitrant offenders. For advertisers who repeatedly ignore this gap by persistent marketing of false, misleading, or unsubstantiated claims, here comes the most severe one, referring the matter to case for actions to be taken under the Consumer Protection Act. That's all for my part, and please welcome Gianni to introduce the ASAS code as well as two COVID-19 cases.
Thank you, Linjie. Here comes critical part of regulation. The Singapore Code of Advertising Practice, SCAP, is the guiding principles of ASAS. This code seeks to promote a high standard of ethics in advertising through industry self-regulation. The basic premise is that all advertisements should be legal, decent, honest, and truthful. And we will see how these codes implement in later cases. There are several advantages of the code principles. First, codes are easier to change than laws. It is also more industry sensitive because the code must rely on industry for feedback. Second, industry is concerned that regulation through conventional law and the courts will stratified creativity. However, the major disadvantage of self-regulatory regimes in general is in enforcement. This is a small part, as more than 18 to 19% of the advertisements in Singapore are covered by ASAS members. It does mean that not all advertisements are regulated. With all that said, you guys must be wondering what situation ASAS works. Here are some examples related to COVID-19, especially medical related. As media released in June 2021, you could check this from ASAS website. ASAS received a total of 428 instances of feedback in 2020, which has also been reported by CNA. The 19% increase over the 359 received in 2019 was partly attributable to feedback on advertisements for COVID-19 related products and services. In the view of feedback, ASAS published advisory on April 2020 to remind advertisers to ensure their advertising claims during the pandemic should be reliable and substantiated. Another case is about the EA mask and EA beer, as you can see from the left, which claim to protect wearers from catching diseases by preventing a 1 meter radius protection around the body. In response to a carrier by mothership, the ASAS said that they have received feedback from several consumers regarding EA masks and EA beer. ASAS told mothership that it wrote to the sole distributor of EA masks and EA beer in Singapore on April 2nd, requesting the company to substantiate its claims. The authority shortened the response time from the customary 5 working days to 3 in this case because the potential health impact of EA mask and EA beer. However, the distributor failed to respond promptly to ASAS. It only sent a reply to ASAS on April 13th. ASAS said that it is not acceptable and they are following up with it. If the company is not able to substantiate its claims, all its advertising claims will have to be removed. ASAS said that under the Singapore Code of Advertising Practice, all claims in advertisements must be substantiated before the advertisement runs. In the case of health and health-related claims, the substantiation must be in double-blind, peer-reviewed academic journals. Then we will move on to some specific case studies to show how advertising self-regulation operates.